The Todd Starnes Commentary.
At this hour, the Obama administration has ordered the evacuation of American personnel in Yemen. The evacuation stems from threats of a possible terrorist attack. 19 of our embassies remain closed. A global travel alert is in place. Folks, Al-Qaeda's not on the run. We are. These are not the actions of a world superpower. These are the actions of a cowardly administration. When push came to shove, President Obama got shoved. We were told there was a specific threat. If that's the case, why is there a global travel alert? Then we were told there was a threat in Africa and the Middle East. If that's the case, why is New York City on alert? It's time for the White House to man up and stand our ground. And while they're at it, somebody needs to tell President Obama that when the going gets tough, Americans don't cut and run. I'm Todd Starnes.
Welcome back. Brain Durham's Nothing But Truth proudly on AFR Talk. Now, in the discussion of Fort Hood and the trial, I wanted to take it from Fort Hood to the greater war that we are in. Brain Durham's Nothing But Truth proudly on AFR Talk. The reason I want to do that is because I think it gives us tremendous insight into what the president's policies are, what they hope to achieve, and what Charles Krauthammer has described as the fruits of those policies. And we'll just do a little recap of Fort Hood. Immediately following the Fort Hood shooting, the president, for 2 minutes, gave a shout out during a speech that was pre-planned to the tribal council. This is something that is unbelievable. But I played it for you last segment, and the reason was at the event of Tribal Nations Conference hosted by the Department of Interior's Bureau of Indian Affairs, President, for 2 minutes, as networks went to him for a reaction to Fort Hood, and 12 that had died, 13 were murdered total, 32 counts of attempted premeditated murder, and that's what Nidal Hasan is facing. But bottom line, he went on for 2 minutes plus giving shout-outs and thanking others. And I will say this again, I don't think any president wants our soldiers to be killed. Yet there is a blindness, a willful blindness, when it comes to the approach of facing our enemy. The president has talked about ending wars. Well, let's just start out with Fort Hood and the evidence of the fact that Hassan was radicalized, and there were signs that he was capable, certainly, of this type of action, potentially. As he talked about, and this is just, it will outrage you. But the FBI investigation of Hassan actually began when President Obama was sworn in. And there were emails between Hassan and the now departed Anwar al-Awlaki. And among these emails, Hassan talked about the joys of jihad and the intriguing idea of soldier killing fellow soldiers in the name of Islam. Now, there is much more there, by the way. But we had evidence going up. Political correctness costs the lives of our soldiers. But not only that, a policy that is in place now that seemingly believes that we are responsible for the aggression against us because of Gitmo, because of distorted history, contextually and otherwise, of imperialism and empire building. The fact is, what we are at war with is an ideology. It is founded in Islam. We've talked about it before. And until you address that ideology, you are not going to win. But there's another point to that. understanding the enemy and what they believe. Strong horse, weak horse. 1996 letter from bin Laden points to that and points to Somalia. And U.S. in 94, 94, what they saw was cutting and running. And they saw it, and they traced it back. They looked at Lebanon. They looked throughout. And bin Laden understood it and said, no, we're the strong horse. And when you have a number of attacks, and not only you have attacks, you refuse to identify the ideology, you refuse to identify the enemy, you talk about ending wars, not winning wars, ending wars. And then you go and deny the strength of the enemy. Well, let's have an example of that. There's a montage that was put together by townhall.com. Here, check this out. Roll it.
There should be no doubt. Today, America is stronger, and al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat.
We've decimated al-Qaeda's leadership.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and bin Laden is dead.
We've decimated al-Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden.
Al-Qaeda is much weaker than it was when I came into office.
Osama bin Laden is dead, and General Motors is alive.
The war in Afghanistan is coming to a close. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. Osama bin Laden is dead. Today, the core of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan is on the path to defeat. Their remaining operatives spend more time thinking about their own safety than plotting against us.
So you say these things, you use national security information to bolster your campaign to the point of revealing programs like Stuxnet virus, as well as the, quote, kill list that was bragged about in the New York Times. And then you deny reality that we are in. You say, no, largely secular organization, the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, anybody who does just a quick, cursory investigation of the Muslim Brotherhood would say that was an asinine statement. Nonetheless, this is what the approach has been. And what it believes is if we apologize enough, our enemy shares our values. They do not share our values. And we must talk about the fact that a culture that embraces life and liberty and freedom and protects minorities' rights and the minority point of view, minority population that looks at people as having individual rights protected by the state, that is far superior than one that is based on subjugation, second-tier status for those who do not believe in the particular religion, and that would be dhimmi status, by the way. Oh, yeah, and a law that puts people in a place of where victims of crimes, rape victims, for example, are stoned to death or beaten, where women, children in schools that are on fire are not allowed to exit because they're not dressed appropriately. I'll boil it down. Here's nothing but truth. A culture founded on Judeo-Christian foundation, on a Judeo-Christian foundation, is far superior to one that is founded on an Islamic foundation. Multiculturalism is costing lives, and we must engage. Charles Krauthammer had this to say about the latest terror threat and this being the fruits of President Obama's policy. Roll it.
Look, a perennial problem that a superpower has, you want to be loved or respected. Obama has always had what I think is a naive idea that he wants America to be loved. He made a tour of the Muslim world early on. We're going to respect you, a new relationship, an open hand to Iran, a reset with Russia. This is the idea that America somehow, by being nice, will be treated well. This is the fruits of being in Benghazi, having our ambassador attacked, and nothing happening to the bad guys. It's a result of Russia. We warned about Snowden. There'll be consequences. Russia holds him. There are none. Threatening Iran, saying you'll be held accountable. And then on Syria, the president of Syria has to go, and he'll be held accountable if weapons of mass destruction are used. There is no sense anywhere in the world that if you kill a U.S. ambassador, you attack an embassy, you go against America's interest, you ignore it, and you stick a finger in its eye, that anything will happen to you.
The president may not want to be at war, but that does not mean we're not at war. Weakness invites aggression, and we have yet to hear of a comprehensive approach to dealing with our enemies. And this has been ongoing, and it's been an ongoing criticism. Global warming's not the threat, Mr. President. Greenhouse gases are not the threat. And people that have been successful are not the threat. Inequality is really not the threat. The threat you're tasked with, Mr. President, is defending the American people. And constitutionally, you are tasked with that, as our government is. And to me, the fact that we have our soldiers in harm's way, and the president has spoken of ending wars and not winning them, and giving timelines, as well as the fact that Benghazi, we have yet to hear the truth, tells me that the president and many members of Congress do not understand the war that we are in. And a portion of the people that I just mentioned, members of Congress and the president, they truly have no respect for the people that defend this country. Actions speak louder than words, and we will know them by their fruits. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. On the flip side, much more, IRS scandal, etc. AFR Talk.